Sierra Williams. I'm making this video on behalf of the Blackfoot West stake, but hopefully it's educational to everybody, even outside of our zone. So this year, for our preparation classes and mindset and plan and goals, we are encouraging members of the stake to plant gardens. Hopefully, if you've never grown a garden, just start one this year and learn from it. Why should we grow a garden? If you think about it, when we can no longer go to the grocery store and that supply chain is cut off, you are now looking at becoming a gardener. And that is not the time to start a garden for your first time. So every year prior to that time is a practice year. And especially when you still have a supply chain to fall back on, is the best time to be learning and making progress in your gardening endeavors. Okay, so this video is primarily about seed starting and the supplies you may need, why, everything that has to do with that. Okay, let's go over the benefits of starting your own seed. Number one, it's cheaper. A lot of the supplies that you use to start seed can carry into the next year's. It's unlikely that you'll use a whole bag of potting soil or seed starting mix, and you won't use all of your seeds, but they all carry into the next year. Another reason is you get more of a variety to choose from. So your grocery store or your local nursery may only have 2 varieties of broccoli, but if you look online or you buy your own seed and start your own seed, you have the option, you can look between 20 options and choose something that looks fun or you think would work best for you and your family. It also gives you the chance to plan your garden during the winter months, so you can plan for when you're going to start seed and know how much you need and where you can put in your garden, spacing, all of that. If you're at the mercy of the garden center and that supply chain, you don't really know what they're going to have available for you. And you can just hope that maybe you'll get all of what you need, but there's no promises. And like I just mentioned, you're also not at the mercy of the supply chain. If that is cut off and they can't get a shipment in, it was a bad year for the tomato crop, that's okay. You started your own seed and you don't have to rely on that. You are moving on. Another reason, like I mentioned before, practice. It's very educational to start your own seeds. You get to have that experience of learning what works and what doesn't work for you. It differs for everybody, especially here in Idaho. Our growing zones and areas are so small, it varies from even different parts of Pingree. So moving on to the supplies that you'll need. So actual seed starting, there are a bunch of ways you can do it. There's no right, there's no wrong way to do it. There are just kind of basic guidelines to go by. So I'll kind of hit some of those, but Google is a great place to search these different ideas. If you think it'll work, try it. It might work great for you. So let's first talk about seeds. So there are quite a few seed companies out there. There are a few that I personally like best. Don't trust everybody in their seeds. Probably don't buy seed off Amazon or Etsy. It's probably, not to say they're all wrong, but you don't really know what you're gonna get. Okay, so number 1, Twilly. This is a great company. They're a little bit inconvenient to order from. You do have to call and place your order over the phone, or you have to fax, like fill out their order form and fax it in. But they are, I think, the cheapest seed that I have seen on the market. And yeah, just overall great company. I've had a great success with their seed. Another one is Johnny's. This is a very well-known company. It is a little bit pricey, but you pay for the name, and their germination rates and everything are really great, and they do offer a lot of different varieties. So this is a great resource. There are a lot of other ones, Gurney's, Eden Brothers, whatever you find, I'm sure it'll be great. But those are the top two that I would recommend. Also, we can't cut out our local nurseries. They do offer a lot of seed options. And typically they're for your growing zone. Here in Pingree, we are zone 5B, so we can grow anything from 5 to 12. This is some pea seed I got from Kessler's. They do sell bulk seed. That's a great option for certain things like corn and peas, those sort of things that you will grow a lot of in general. Going back to Twilly and Johnny's, this is another thing that why I prefer certain one over the other. Johnny's, they do have their growing information on the back of their seed packets, and that's very handy to have right at your fingertips. Twilly's does not offer that. It's not in their magazine, and so typically you have to go on Google to go find it at Johnny's or something like that. So that's another reason I prefer Johnny's. Moving on to soil. You'll need a seed starting soil and a potting soil. They are different. Seed starting soil is a lighter mix. It's not so dense and heavy, and it's not full of sticks and things like that. It does dry out faster, but it works best for young seeds and seedlings. Once you transplant, typically I transplant into potting soil, but sometimes, typically, like if I'm planting my squash, cucumber, melons, anything like that, I'll just plant it straight into the potting mix. But that's up to you. You experiment with what works for you. I won't say that one is always better than the other. Okay, containers. Anything works. Anything works for containers. You can do yogurt containers. You can do leftover containers from last year from crops that you bought. This is what you'd see at a nursery. Just having your 4-packs or 6-packs. As long as there's drainage in the bottom of your containers. That's number one. Doesn't matter what you put it in, as long as there's a hole for the water to come out in the bottom. This works really great if you're starting your seed inside, which I highly recommend. This is a tray that has no holes in it. So it works great for watering. When you water, this will catch all your water and keep it off your furniture and things like that. Keeps the mess all in one place. There are some that do have holes, and those are very handy once you take them outside and you're watering them outside. That works great. One thing that I did try last year that I really liked was starting a lot of my seed in one thing. So this is a blueberry container that I used. I just put my seed starting mix in here. Then I wasn't wasting material. And then I just planted rows of certain seeds. So like I planted 4 different varieties of tomatoes. So I just planted a row of 4 or 5 seeds or whatever and planted them all in here. I labeled them, make sure you label them. Then I kind of cut down on the amount of soil that I used, and if a seed didn't come up, I didn't waste a cell or a container on it. It was just in here, and I really liked that. This is another type of container you can buy. Kessler's has these too. It's just up to you what you prefer. Okay, let's move on to light. This is a big deal when it comes to seedlings. A lot of people like to say they put them in a south-facing window. Great. If that's all you can do, do it. It's better than nothing. They will tend to stretch over time as they reach for the sun, and that does kind of create an issue. So if you can get an extra light to put on them, that would be the best way to go. You can buy lights for cheap. This one actually glows like a red purple. You just buy them on Amazon. I did these for a few years. They worked fine. This one behind me is one that we upgraded to last year, and hands down best light I've had. It's amazing, but it does cost a little bit more. So if you're in it for the long haul, just go straight to this. I promise you will not be sad about it. But if you're just trying it out and you're just kind of on a budget, this works great. Do this. On top of your seedlings, they may require some sort of humidity, and the best way to do that would be, if you're on a budget, plastic wrap. I actually have them on my seedlings right here, because only some of my seedlings haven't germinated yet, so it works great for that. This is a humidity dome. This goes over your whole tray. You may need to experiment with cracking it open, taking it off for a few hours, putting it on, but these are very handy and carry around to the next year. Moving on to heating. Heating can be a big deal for some seeds. Some seeds are a little more finicky than others, but it's not required. Typically our homes are at a good enough temperature for seed starting. Some seeds do like a little more heat, like tomatoes and peppers. This is a heating mat. This was a double heating mat. You can buy these online. There's a bunch of different places you can buy them from. And there are monitors that you can set the temperatures to. You put a little probe in your soil, and it'll maintain the temperature, but that does not typically come with all heat mats. Flowers are usually the first thing you start with seed starting. A lot of them, not a lot, a good chunk of them. Flowers are typically the thing that you start first indoors. They usually take a little bit longer to put on some growth before you put them outside. They can be a little more finicky than a vegetable, but not all of them. And not all seed do you need to start inside for flowers. Some are very easy growing, like sunflowers and zinnias, and some just need a little bit more babying along. Those would be like petunias, lobelia, delphinium, snapdragons. Those usually need quite a few weeks indoors before you plant them outside. So make sure if you were wanting to grow flowers this year, to be planning for that. So you may be wanting to start in February, early March, if you are planning on growing flowers this year. So let's move on to direct seeding versus starting your seed inside. So there are some seeds that you don't need to start inside. Peas, carrots, radishes, lettuce, things like that. You just plant straight outside. Don't start them. Things like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, melons, things like that, start inside. Some of those you can start direct seed, but you'll just have a later harvest. Okay, so let's talk about what you start with, what seeds you start with. Typically, flowers take a longer time to germinate, to grow. So typically you start those a lot sooner than you'll start your vegetables. If you're not planning on planting flowers like I haven't for the last few years, don't worry about it. We'll start planting in March. If you are wanting to do flowers, not all flowers require early planting, but there are some like geraniums and petunias and lobelia, delphinium, things like that. They do require a longer growth window. Okay, so as far as your vegetables, the first things that you'll want to plant are onions, peppers, tomatoes, and typically most of your herbs, like your lavender, rosemary, thyme, things like that. Onions, they can grow for a long time, and you can just keep cutting them back until you're ready to plant them outside. They're not too finicky. Tomatoes, they can grow fairly quickly, but the bigger the tomato plant you put outside when it's time, the better success you're gonna have. And peppers, in my experience, they grow very slowly. So typically I'll start those like end of February, just so that they have a little bit more size on them by the time I put them outside. Next, you'll plant, so typically you plant the onions, peppers, tomatoes, herbs in late March, mid to late March, depending on the year and the weather. So it was looking really great here in Pingree for a few days and looking like it was spring, and then we got snow and it was 4 degrees this morning. So kind of pushes spring off a little bit, which is great. So next, after those crops, you'll plant your broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and your cucumbers, and that's typically early April to mid-April is your window. And then next, you'll plant your pumpkin, squash, zucchini, and your melons, and that's typically late April to early May. Sometimes melons do take a little bit of time, so you can plant those a little bit earlier than, say, your pumpkins, but that's just been my experience the last couple years. Okay, so I think that's everything. I think we've covered everything for this video. I do want to say and mention that there is an Idaho Home Garden Tips class on Zoom. It's through the University of Idaho, and it's put on by Bonneville County. It's on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays at 7 p.m. and I'll try to get the link attached to this video somewhere. And the next class that they're putting on is February 27th, and it's about compost, manures, snake oil, and soil amendments. They do follow each class with a Q&A at the end. So if you watch and you have questions, feel free to stick to the end and you can ask your questions and they'll be happy to help you. And I think that's everything. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on this page or contact us in person. But we'd be happy to help you and answer any questions you have. Hopefully you guys enjoy starting your own seeds this year and have it be a great educational and learning process. I know it's taken me a few years to learn things, and I even have a degree in gardening, and I'm still learning, and it's limitless what you can learn and what you can do in the garden, and I think that's exciting. So if you guys would like to tag along with us and plant a garden this year, we'd be happy to. We'll be posting videos throughout the season about things that come up in our gardens, pests, tips, things like that. So follow this page and we'd be thrilled to have you join us.